Listener emails on episode 496 of the Actual Astronomy Podcast. I'm Chris, and joining me is Shane. We are amateur astronomers who love looking up at the night sky, and this podcast is for everybody who enjoys going out under the stars. And we've got a shout out for a couple Patreon supporters. Shane?
Yeah, it was nice to see. So thank you, Howard and Sean, as our newest Patreon supporters. And as always, we like to thank all of our Patreon supporters. Helps keep the show going.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's cool. Like we have a lot of long-term correspondence with both Patreon and non-Patreon supporters. We certainly appreciate it. Not required to write us. People can write us anytime at actualastronomy@gmail.com. But yeah, it is. It helps keep it going because there are costs associated with this, hey?
Yeah, a little bit here and there. So just nice when we don't have to pay for that out of pocket.
Yeah, and then we can stay focused on what really matters, which is astronomy. So we do
Exactly.
appreciate it. Yeah. So how have you been doing, Shane? How's your observing going? We were talking about the poor weather we've been having.
Yeah, so I haven't been out since I was in grasslands a few weeks ago. No observing since then, other than a little bit of naked eye, but nothing serious. I have booked 2 nights to go back to grasslands, August 26th, or I think 27th and 28th, or something like that.
Okay.
The late August new moon is one of my favorites because it's typically still warm enough that you don't really have to bundle up for observing, but it's starting to get darker earlier, and you can get an awful lot of hours in, on a good night. So I'm hoping that I have good weather then, but the smoke has come back, and we have to.
Mm,
Well, I'm hoping that it disappears soon. But have you been able to do any observing?
nothing. No, it's just the nights that have been good at all haven't been lining up. I'm not, really just getting very lucky on those days myself. So yeah, it's just kind of the way it's been. It seems like every few days we get the smoke pretty moderately. It's funny, like it's not as bad in some respects as last year, and certainly not as bad as 2023. But it's often like there's a moderate amount of smoke around on half the days or more. So,
Hmm.
but it is supposed to blow out later today. And as we were talking about there's been a lot of rain here too, which is weird because in the past 2 years we had lots of smoke but very little rain. But this year it's like we'll get pounded with rain, and then it will be the smoke will move in after it, which is like it's so annoying because of course
Hmm.
if the rain had gone to the fire that is making the smoke, then we really wouldn't have any smoke. So it's super frustrating because we're soaking wet and smoky, which we really haven't quite had before.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate combination. And like you said, normally the rain kind of cleans out the air, gets rid of the smoke, but just not happening right now.
Yeah, and I mean, in fact, it's so humid here at times that there were some days where I thought it was smoky, and I have an air quality monitor here now. It wasn't reading anything, and then at night it got so damp that it was just humidity in the air for the most part. Maybe there was a little bit of smoke, but it was like three-quarters of that was just moisture in the air, which is kind of strange too to have this much moisture, like I said, mixed in with a small amount of smoke. But yeah, it's pretty smoky now. Supposed to clear out this afternoon. Fingers crossed on that. Of course, back to work tomorrow. Any equipment inbound, Shane? Anything striking your fancy?
Nothing ordered, but an interesting object for sale on
Mm.
the Canada Astro Buy Sell website. There's a 12.2-inch refractor
What?
objective in a lens cell.
Hmm.
So this person got it, and it's in Digby, Nova Scotia, closer to home for you.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
not too far.
Let's see here. He got this in 2022 for sub-arc double stars from an optician in Florida who made quite a few larger objectives. So this person built an OTA that is about 15 feet long, which which is wild, and had it operating. Had a good star test, split some tight doubles. Anyway, he sold his house and he has to dismantle this thing. And so he's selling it for $7,000 if anybody wants
Okay.
an enormous refractor.
Trying to find it here. Oh, here we go. 12.2 refractor objective cell. Good golly. Oh, he's got it in like a partial open tube woodshed. Some
Yeah.
sort, looks like a buyer's mount there.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's incredibly large. I can't imagine a 12-inch refractor like that.
that is rough. It looks pretty long focal length, 15 feet. Doesn't even
Yeah.
give the focal length.
That'd be about f15, I guess, right? With if it's
Oh
15
yeah.
feet with a pretty much a 1 foot objective.
Yeah. Mike Palomini or Meany or whatever his name was. He's the only optician I knew in Florida. I'm guessing but he mostly imported stuff. So this is probably some sort of Russian achromat, I would guess, because most of his stuff was Russian, I believe, which is fine. Lenses, mint, no scratches. But wow. Yeah. Don't know that he's going to get. I'm trying to get my head around that roll off too. That's a little bit strange looking.
Yeah, the mount that you would need to like for it to be stable with a moment arm of 15 feet. I just can't even imagine.
Mm,
I'm sure the
you know,
views would be incredible though.
yeah, it's neat though. But the challenge is that I found anyway is as the owner of at least what some might call a large refractor, though my friend Randall says it's not large until it's an 8-inch refractor.
Mm.
Um, I'm going to say that anything much over about 5 inches is a large refractor. But to be honest, having owned a variety of instruments now and looked through lots, but yeah, 7 inches at almost 1100 millimeter focal length. Like it starts to get a bit odd in the eyepiece positioning.
Hmm.
And so I think that a 1200-ish millimeter focal length, maybe up to 13 or 1400, is manageable. But I think once you get beyond that, your eyepiece height when it's pointed at the horizon or close to it and to overhead is going to vary by so much that you're going to really wish to have a one of those piers that can go up and down like our friend Vincent had.
Hmm. An easier way to get that eyepiece at the right level.
Yeah, there was a company brand I think used to make refractor objectives like this. And I know somebody was selling one at one point in time. But anyway, this is probably just one of those, I think 12.2 inch. Wow, that would just be so phenomenal for double stars. But
It must be one of, if not the largest amateur refractor in Canada, I would think.
yeah, I would think so too. I wonder whose it was though. I don't know of anybody. I mean, it's weird because Digby is not too far from where our star party was. You know, I know there's a few people as well from Nova Scotia who do listen to the podcast. Maybe one of them will chime in. But yeah, I never knew of anybody that had a refractor like that. I certainly would have known about it. But I know there was somebody that had one of the big iStar 8-inch refractors. I wonder if it's the same person and then they sold it. That would be cool. You know, I once dreamed, of getting their 9-inch 220 or 228 f7.7. Yeah, that like your eyepiece, at 1800 millimeter focal length, your eyepiece height near the horizon is you're going to be getting on a ladder, and then you're going to be like laying down on the floor to look through it when you're near overhead. And to
Yeah.
me, that's very inconvenient.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. Anything else on your end
No,
for
that
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 kind of
caught
stuff?
my eye just because of how unique something like that is, but
Mm,
certainly I have no interest in something that large, but I hope it finds a good home because something like that
mm.
really should be used.
I
Yeah.
was looking at those ultra wide angle binoculars. It's their new ones. Let's got their Sky Rover. I don't know if you've been following those along, but
No.
they've decided to make a 6 by 32 with a 12.2 degree field of view.
Oh, really? And
Yeah,
how's the eye relief?
it's good. It's like 18 mils. Apparently, they're from what early testers have said, one of them is Holger. I forget his last name, but he's a pretty famous binocular person. And I think he sort of maybe helped design them or something. Anyway, there's some connection there. He was at least testing them and said that they were very good. And they've made these 6x32s with the ability to take 2-inch filters over the ends.
What's the price on these?
Pretty expensive. They're coming up as $3.99 again. So I wrote them. It's very confusing. So I'm back on the website here now, Sky Rover. So they were listed as $3.99, and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to buy those. That's like my bag. It's a wide field binocular, and you can put filters on. This is awesome. This is a great idea. Great work, folks. I actually fell asleep and anyway decided, oh, I'll just buy them tomorrow, or whatever. They were just released. And so this was about 2 weeks ago, maybe something like that. Anyway, so the next night I went to buy them and they were $4.95. They went up $100 US, which is, like 135 bucks Canadian. So I wrote them and said, what the heck? And they wrote back and said, oh, well, the $3.99 is for the binoculars without the filters. But now today I'm seeing them as, oh, okay, there we go. They're $4.95 with the adapter rings and a set of 2-inch filters. So that makes a little bit more sense, but it's not really clear on the website. And anyway, they wrote back and they responded. So that's great, like within a day or so. And they were super nice. And then they said, but they're sold out. They just sold right out of them, I guess. And they said that they're not going to be back in stock for another few weeks. So they said, don't worry about the order until the 1st of September or something like that. So I think that's a pretty cool binocular. 12.2 degree field of view, true field, with the ability to put UHC filters on. And they're selling the UHC filters. And I think they're very similar to the old Orion UHC filter, which were pretty good filters. These should be a very interesting piece of kit, I think. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm really intrigued because they also advertise in like a fully flat field.
Mm,
Now, because normally with binoculars, when you start getting into these real wide field, um, versions, that like the outer, I don't know, 20-30%
mm.
sometimes is just unusable because, it's such a fast system and the limitations with binoculars. But if they can accomplish a flat field at 12.2 degrees with that kind of eye relief, yeah, consider me very interested.
Yeah, and maybe for reference, folks, a typical, say, 10 by 50-ish binocular will have maybe about a 50 degree apparent field. So that gives you about a 5-degree true field. And a lot of finder scopes have about a 5-degree true field. And the wider field, binoculars that you can find, like a 8 by 40-ish or a 7 by 35, you're getting into maybe 8 or 9-degree true fields. If you find a really wide field 10x, you might get a 6 or 6.5-degree true field. But and like our 12 by 36 Canons are about a 5-degree field, I think, eh?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Something like that. Anyway, but these ones having a 12.2 puts them in line with just about the widest field binoculars that have ever been made. So that's a pretty cool thing. But then, of course, something else happened. So I decided to spend that $600 Canadian somewhere else.
Oh, yes. Is that public news yet, or?
Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose it's not really that big news, but I'm gonna get a motor for the roof of the observatory, and it costs, coincidentally enough, about the same as getting those binoculars to motorize my observatory roof. The money ended up being spent within 24 hours of not being able to get those binoculars anyway. So maybe I'll get a pair of those anyhow. But my builder seems to have gotten freed up, and he's been doing some work in there. I had some leaks. I think I mentioned those to you, Shane. I'm not sure if I ever mentioned them on the podcast.
Yeah, you had a couple little issues there that you wanted to tighten up. So,
Nothing too crazy or major, but there was leaks around one of the windows. It's a fine balance building an observatory because you want to seal it so that the water is not getting in, but in essence, you almost want to let as much air into and out of it as possible. And then because here it's a very extreme environment, we sort of erred on the side of, leaving it open a little bit, and then have gradually been, you know, putting in blocks and foam and caulking and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, yeah, we probably had too much snow coming in last winter, right? And I think what happens is, as you know, there's like, I mean, a huge field that runs for 300 kilometers north of here. And so when we got a north wind and a little bit of snow, the snow was just blowing down. And this is like one of the first dips in the landscape for a long way. And it was kind of hitting the side of the observatory, like with great force, like each individual snowflake, and just like shattering into microscopic pieces of ice that would just drift in around the rails. And then there was like another couple spots. And so, over the course of, a week or 10 days, I'd go in there and there'd be like just like the finest powder of snow over everything, like maybe even up to, a depth of an inch or two in one or two spots. But pretty much like at least a millimeter or two over the whole observatory inside, just from the snow, just gradually drifting in there as it gets blown off the field. So he's remediated that by putting in there's like a foam, I guess they use in the tops of combines here. Like so when they're combining, like the dust doesn't clog the whatever it is, like the engine in a
Hmm.
combine. Anyway, so that's what we've put in because if it's good enough for grain dust, it's probably going to keep most of that snow out.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. And then the other thing was around the front window, it's just a small little window. It was leaking a lot for a small window, but not all the time. There's like a drip guard that you can put on. And so he's put one of those over the windows so that when it rains or snows, and it makes sense, like I think what was happening is it was snowing and maybe it got warm because it's the front of the observatory, which faces south. And it was, I think, like forming up like ice above the window. And then the sun was hitting it, and that would just melt and then like just kind of go inside
Mm.
because it would be like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 pounds of snow or ice sitting up there. And, over the course of a day, it would just like sort of trickle in. And that's kind of what it looked like anyway. So what he did is he actually sealed it in with this new caulking that he's found and then put in a drip guard. And anyway, so we had huge rains this week, as you know. So nothing came in. So it's fixed,
Oh,
basically.
good. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It like not exciting stuff. I think that the roof motor is exciting. So there's a few people that have put these motors on the observatories. It's the same company, Alico, that makes the rails and the wheels that people use. They're meant for gates, like if you want to, put a gate on your house. I don't know how that would work, Shane, the same as mine. But if you had like a pretty fancy place, this is what you buy for it. So anyway, but it's a matching set. So I already have the rails and the wheels from Alico. Last spring, I started looking at these because when we had to roll it off when there was some ice on the rails, it would roll, but it was like it took a little bit to get it going.
Hmm.
And there's been times, just depending on how much like the wood is contracting and expanding. And then when he was looking at it, he said that it was difficult to work around the telescope. So in essence, that's going to help fix this problem. So my builder just arrived and had brought in some pieces of wood that I need to paint, and then wanted to just talk about a couple things with the motor that we're
Hmm.
going to hopefully be installing late this month to power the roof so that it can roll off. Because when I had the smaller telescopes in there, it was okay to work around, but it's still kind of futzy to kind of pull it open, and then you got to kind of pull it and then push it and do all this stuff. And I'm not a super tall person, and so it was a little bit awkward. And then now with the 7-inch refractor in there, it's pretty big to work around. So
Hmm.
we yeah, we decided to pull the trigger, and that's what's on the go here. Yeah, so it's the final push. He's put some blocks in to block out more snow and any of the heavy rain, but I imagine there'll always be a little bit of snow and moisture in that gets in. It's just an inevitability when you build a building that has a roof that actually comes off.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can never have a perfect seal when you have an observatory, and part of that is also okay just to let some of that air move through it a
Hmm.
bit too.
I had a email here from Leonid. Do you want to take a read?
Yeah, he said, "Hi, Chris and Shane. As a proud Patreon supporter, you guys have become my only traveling companions. I am three-quarters of the way through listening to your podcasts. It's too hot here. I will miss the Perseid events at my astronomy club because of work. Last night, I had my first view of Saturn using my new 80 millimeter f10 telescope, using my old eyepieces, of which I have put into a Nanook case that I picked up. It might just make this my travel case. And I can say, Chris, that those are awesome cases. I quite like them."
Mm.
Leonid goes on to say that I have only one 4-inch refractor, and it's a TeleVue 101. I wanted to put it on a Primaluch Lab 100 millimeter rings, but that is a no-go. I have found some rings that can hold my scope, and they are made by Parallax Instruments. And Joe, the owner, seems like a very nice guy, so I ordered the rings from them. I will show you them when they arrive. I love the scope, and I really hope the rings will help reassure me that the telescope won't fall off my mounts and fall 3 stories down. I've always
That'd be bad.
wanted, yeah, I've always wanted to walk into Stephen James O'Meara's footsteps. And yeah, that's a great way to do it. Yeah, Hidden Treasures is largely based on that telescope.
Hmm.
He says, I have a TeleVue 101, a Nagler 22 millimeter, a 3.5 or 5 millimeter Pentax XW, and finally, better access to darker skies. I
Nice.
think, yeah, I think that I can do it. And ultimately, 5 other telescopes and way too many eyepieces in between. I can relate. All I need now is his Secret Deep book. I already have the Messier and Caldwell objects. And yes, I do ask myself, is it really necessary to recreate someone else's accomplishments? I have the guidebooks, I have the experience of observing. Anyway, it's just a thought. And Chris, like what I like about reading some of these books and then trying to observe them is just seeing what you're able to, see from your skies. But O'Meara focuses on a lot of objects that don't get too much attention, depending on the book anyway.
Mm.
And it's just some nice variety. So I think that's a great thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. There's a few, the way O'Meara wrote those books, there's sort of some hidden ways of using them that I've discovered over the years. I've had I think all of the books for, as long as they've been out almost. And one of the things that I like to do is if I'm observing particular types of objects, like this past year, I've been looking at planetary nebulae.
Okay.
And what I did is I went through and I read as many of O'Meara's observations of planetary nebulae and the powers that he used and what he was able to see and couldn't see and all this kind of stuff. And now I'm using a 7-inch refractor and he was observing with 4 and 5 inch and maybe a few other little scopes or whatever. But it's more the approach that I like to glean from
Mm,
from what he was doing. And so what I did is I went and then determined what would be the analogous powers in my 7-inch to what he was using in his 101, and then just started applying those, kind of like scaling it up a little bit. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, like to be frank, if you do that and you kind of follow along very carefully with a larger scope, you can see more than what Stephen O'Meara saw with his small scope. So, and that
mhm.
makes a lot of sense, just because he was just using a 4-inch telescope, but kind of using it to its max, right?
Yeah, yeah, and he spends a lot of time with different magnifications and different filters and like very, very extensive, detailed observations, which I love. It is a great approach, and I just enjoy his writing style too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
let you finish this though. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, a few more lines here from Leonid. So he said, I also took your advice and got myself a Beta Zoom, or sorry, Universal Zoom, which I paired with my 2.25 Barlow, also from Beta. And you know what? I love using it. I don't regret my decisions, but man, I really have enough equipment for a lifetime of exploration.
Hmm.
The moon and Saturn were beautiful last night. I can't wait to put my scope on new rings. Thanks you guys for being there. Your voices and experiences help me get through my days. I hope you guys are doing well. And then P.S. What is the reference from Australia for that definitive Atlas guidebook for southern skies? And that's it. Clear skies for now from Leonid.
Yeah, I did write back to Leonid, and I just said we're gonna put your email in the podcast, and then he said, but the book. I'm not sure why he wants this book, because it really is mostly useful for if you're going to the Southern Hemisphere, which is what I was planning to do when I bought it.
Mhm.
So anyway, the book is Hartung's Astronomical Objects for Southern Telescopes, or something to that effect, a handbook for amateur astronomers. It is excellent. It looks like they might be selling it on Amazon now. Is it used though? Be careful. You want to get a new copy, and I'll say why you want to get a new copy is that there has been some updates over the years, and I think it's best just to get the most recent one. And it's not out of print. And I noticed that it is just kind of a futzy thing to try to buy, but it's not out of print. But in a lot of the pricing that I was seeing when I bought mine 2 years ago it was being priced as if it was out of print into the hundreds of dollars.
Mm.
And it's a good book, but why spend, 150 or $200 American on a book that you can get for, I bought mine, I checked my receipt yesterday, I bought it for $50 Canadian, and that included the shipping. So but when he went to place his order at Melbourne University Press, which is where I bought the book from, he wasn't able to complete. I don't know, maybe it's just like a browser issue, or who knows what. Maybe it was because it was on the weekend. I mean, it is like a university press website, so maybe just try again or whatever. But I do see now, like it does look like it says available used and new for 79.23 Canadian on Amazon, which is a little bit more. But then when I scroll down, they're selling them for up to $415 Canadian. And like I said, it's a good book, but why would you spend $415 on a book that you can buy brand new from the publisher itself? I think it is just one of those things where it's futzy to get. Maybe there's times a year you can get it and times a year that you can't. I don't think it's that such a critical book that one would want to spend. Is it worth spending an extra $20 on? Yeah, sure. Like maybe if it comes through Amazon, it's getting a premium of some sort. Maybe it's going through the States first, and there's some sort of extra handling or something involved there. I don't know. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe for 79, it's okay. Maybe the price of shipping or something has gone up in the past couple of years anyway. That's probably okay. But it also says it's hardcover. Mine is not hardcover, so that's weird. And then there is a Kindle edition for those that prefer that. That might be all right.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so there you go. We had an email from Frank Dempsey, and he's a very well-known RASC member. I don't know if I responded to him to say we're going to put his note in, but I'm always surprised when I see people like Frank or Howard Banich or Bill Weir are listening to the show. It always makes me a little bit trepidatious or something to that effect about doing a podcast on a topic where people who are much more experienced about the subject than I am are listening. And I think Frank would be in that category along with several others. So it's a little
Mhm.
bit interesting to be doing this, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, it's great, and I love the engagement.
Yeah, so thanks for the email, Frank. I'm going to read it though. Frank writes, Hi, Chris and Shane. Many thanks for presenting interesting actual astronomy podcast each week. I noticed in the most recent podcast, episode 494, that some observers don't like right angle correct image finders or Raki or RASI finders and prefer straight finders, straight through finders, or Telrad type zero power finders instead. I totally understand the convenience and benefit of straight sighting when pointing a telescope. However, I have been using a combination of Raki and zero power pointers for about the past 5 years after seeing an ATM article in Sky and Telescope magazine showing how to make a zero power pointer out of a metal sheet and which I follow the directions. The point acts as a finder for the finder. I'm mentioning it here because it seems to be so useful that it's worthwhile to share with anyone who may not be aware of this idea. For me, as a visual observer using star hopping methods to find targets, the zero power pointer on the Raki is a huge, helpful, and convenient benefit. Until I saw the Sky and Telescope article providing the idea, I had a Telrad mounted on each of my scopes, various sizes, as well as a Raki finder, but the disadvantage of the Telrad are dew formation and optical surface challenges, need for battery. In contrast, my metal sheet plates are similar and reliable, simply require looking through two holes, one on each end of the finder. The attached image shows my three Raki finders, 50, 60, and 80 millimeters, each with zero power sighting rings. Best regards, Frank Dempsey, Pickering, Ontario. This is awesome. I had not, you know what? I think I had seen these before, but I assumed it was for solar pointing for one reason or another, but it's clearly not. I put the image in Shane. Maybe we can put these show notes up somewhere. Frank has given us this, obviously, to share, and we appreciate it. But this is pretty remarkable. I think I'd missed that Sky and Telescope article. It must have been just before I resubscribed because I resubscribed about 5 years ago. Had you seen these before or known about this?
Yeah, so the Zeiss telemeter that I have, the 63 millimeter achromatic refractor, has those built into the design, like a forged part of the OTA, and it's just
Oh,
pure genius. You have like it's peep sights essentially, so you have like a
yeah.
circle closer to the eyepiece, and then you have another sort of circle sight further down the OTA, and you just if you have an object visible when you have those lined up, then it's going to be, that's where your telescope is pointed. It's an ingenious design because, as he said, like there's no alignment, there's no batteries, there's
Yeah.
no dew issues. It just works.
Yeah.
The only issues I've had, and I'm glad his are white,
I
is
was
that
going to ask about the color.
if you're at a really dark sky, sometimes finding, at least on the
Oh,
telemeter, because it's a longer tube, so maybe that plays into it, but finding the front, like kind of peephole to look through can be a
yeah.
little challenging sometimes under a really dark sky. And I read
Okay.
online once that some people just like you can buy glow in the dark paint and they'll just paint a little bit of that ring so it's more visible, and
Oh, I see.
it'll just be a real soft glow at night. It
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
be anything distracting.
Yeah.
So that works really well. And then to your point, Chris, it also is a solar finder. Like
Mm.
you could use that as a very safe way to point your telescope at the sun,
Not looking through
assuming,
it, of course, you would
yeah, you,
just look where it's being projected on the ground or whatever. You never look at the sun.
yeah, or you have your wedge or appropriate solar filter in there, and it works really well. And for anybody that hasn't observed the sun, finding the sun with a telescope is very difficult.
Mm.
So having some kind of solar finder, while it's not 100% essential, it really gets you observing the sun quickly. And if you're on a mount that isn't tracking, having some kind of finder is pretty important.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that's super cool. Um, Maybe we can put those in the notes and people can see. It looks very simple in some respects. I'm
Yes,
not sure.
yeah, it is quite simple. It would just be a matter of, yeah, forming the sights yourself and then making them kind of squared or aligned on the telescope tube, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm guessing this was in Jerry Oltian's. column on telescope building. I forget the name of the column. The Astronomer's Workbench, I think is. But I read in the recent issue, in September's issue, that that's his last column. He's been doing it for 10 years, and that's it. I was kind of sad to hear that. We had him on the show once, Shane, and
Hmm.
we've enjoyed all of our guests, but I know we particularly enjoyed having Jerry Oltion on the show. He was perhaps one of the most entertaining amateur astronomers. If people want to listen to, I would say that's just about the most entertaining episode we've ever had. Just he is just simply an entertainer as well as an amateur astronomer. I think really is what it boils down to.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. Anyway, people should go and look back at that one. I would say if you're going to listen to any one of our older episodes, go and look for the ones with the guests. Those ones are a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Our friend Bill, he wrote an article or an email to us. Shane, maybe do you want to give this one a read?
Yeah, this one was neat. So Bill said it was nice to put a voice to Mike after hearing him referenced so many times. If he'd been on previous episodes, I guess I missed him. A funny moment happened last night while listening as I was setting up the observatory at Pearson College for a 30th grad reunion. In addition to opening the dome with a 25-inch, I had set up a Teleview NP101, 15-inch Obsession, and a little f8 3-inch Acro for any children that might show up. That's quite the lineup, Chris.
Hmm.
The point of the 3-inch was that it's on a simple alt-az mount and at kid height, so it wouldn't interfere with adults using it. I just let them have it or have at it, and they had fun. Anyway, to my point, as I was finally getting dark, Vega showed up, so it was time to see if I could get M57, the Ring Nebula, while there was still a very bright sky. With a T5 26mm Nagler in the Obsession, I pointed it to where the ring should be. As I put my eye to the eyepiece and could make out the little circular puff of smoke, I heard Mike say, and then I had a look at the Ring Nebula. A moment of synchronicity. It
Hmm.
turned out to be a fabulous night. Had about 75 to 100 people up on the top of the hill all at once. So many people, I eventually ran into the observatory and grabbed the 50th anniversary Quest Star to help me deal with the crowd. It
Wow.
was, yeah, amazing. It was totally uncontrolled, controlled mayhem. It was only the moon seeing as it was full, but it seemed everyone had fun. At one point, one of the mums came to thank me for helping coach her son on how to take a half decent cell phone shot of the moon through the MP 101. He was then able to on his own, show others how to do it. Nurture the future. Got another reunion to do on the 12th. Anyway, enough about me. I hope the smoke hasn't been too bad out your way. Saskatchewan Summer Star Party is in 2 weeks, so I hope you get the clearing then. I'll be at Kobau at the same time, so we'll say hi to the gang at the corner before the top of the mountain for you. Clear skies from Bill.
Nice. Thanks so much. Appreciate that, Bill. I've of course been to Pearson College Observatory with Bill and seen most of those instruments. It's such a fantastic facility. It's just a great spot to go to. A little bit out of the way though, to say the least. Hey, did you see that email Richard Enns sent us with it was sort of a tongue-in-cheek evolution of his telescope since he started listening to the pod. It starts off with him and all his observing buddies standing around like a 30-inch reflector that's taller than my house to a smaller Dob to a refractor to a small refractor.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
it was
laughed when I saw that.
yeah, it was pretty good. I was gonna put the photos in, but it had other people in the photos, and I was like, without that first photo, it kind of loses its oomph. And yeah, anyway, I didn't know if it'd be all right to put all those folks in the notes, but I thought it was pretty good. Had a note from Mike Peoples, of course. Mike's a well-known amateur astronomer out in the East Coast, and because he worked at a lot of the telescope stores over the years, and not so strangely enough, I certainly bought at least one thing through Mike, perhaps three or four things over the years. Anyway, Mike writes, and oh, by the way, and Mike and I have had some correspondence. I'd like to get him on the show sometime, just hasn't been lining up. But he has a bear that lives at his observatory. Like I think it's like a 400 or 500 pound bear. He has photos of the bear like walking around his observatory. It's part of its nightly haunt. Um, that's pretty wild. So,
Hmm.
to say the
No
least.
kidding.
Mike writes, "Hi, Chris and Shane. Attached is a 30-second image of the supernova in NGC 7331 taken on August 1st. If I used a longer image, the core would have been covered by it. I used my Mi 12-inch ACF and an Apogee U47 CCD in my observatory, Pocono Mountain Observatory, and seeing was above average considering we had smoke from the Canadian wildfires. Short time later there was some high cloud that came in to ruin the session. Magnitude of the supernova was around 12th magnitude, as reported by the AAVSO. I also visually observed it with the 12-inch using a 20 millimeter UWA Meade eyepiece with a Celestron 2X Shorty Barlow, giving a 244 magnification, and that showed the supernova as a pinpoint bright object and a fuzzy dim core. No other detail showed in the galaxy due to the smoke and the moon illuminating the sky. I guess it was about 55% according to Mike. That's a pretty darn good observation and image considering those are pretty compromising conditions. So any of us complaining about poor conditions should think about Mike and him just kind of pushing through and seeing the supernova. I have not seen the supernova and a little bit jealous. I wish I could have seen the supernova. Not sure where it's at now, but 12th magnitude probably need a nice 12-inch telescope like Mike has here.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Really cool.
Cool. Anything else for this show, Shane?
That is all.
Please subscribe, share the show with other stargazers you know. Send us your show ideas, observations, and questions to actualastronomy@gmail.com.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If you are interested in more information, would like to contact us, or if you would like to support the podcast, check out our website, actualastronomy.com.